Hello and welcome back to the stars. Welcome back to Starfield. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Rivet Gun, or the auto riveter in Starfield. This is one of the few heavy weapons in the game. There's just not a whole lot of heavy weapons. It's also one of the few tool weapons in the game, which is kind of both a good thing and a bad thing, and we're going to be talking about that. So let's hop right into this and go over the base stats of the Rivet Gun, the way that I would build it with overclocks, rank it in our tier list, and answer the question, should you be using the Rivet Gun? And I'm going to be referring to it as the Rivet Gun rather than the Auto Riveter. I don't know anybody that actually calls it the Auto Riveter. Most people just say it's the Rivet Gun. And the Rivet Gun is one of the first kind of heavy weapons that you can get. You can't really get a whole lot of heavy weapons, so usually find this into like the mid game, and you can find it into the late game as well. This one is a tool, so that means it doesn't have any sort of tiers that it can go above that. It's similar to the cutter and the arc welder in that way, where it is just stuck at where it is. You can't find an advanced one of these, you can't find a refined or calibrated or anything like that. It is just stuck at the very base of it, which is already kind of a negative. However, for the base stats, the Rivet Gun does have 100 base damage. That is very high. That is one of the highest out of any weapon in the game. This is kind of not true though when you actually fire it, because this has two fire modes. It has a charge up mode and it has a non-charged mode. A non-charged mode will do far less damage, a charged mode will do more damage. So if you can charge this up, which takes maybe half a second, then you can fire this out and it's more accurate and it does more damage. This fires the 12.5mm rivet, which is the only weapon that fires that, so it has that going for it. That is kind of a unique niche when weapons don't have any other competition. So if you're going to the heavy weapons build, this one is always going to be an option for you. This one holds 10 rounds in it, which is pretty decent. This one has a rate of fire of 15, so not very high. It's actually even less than that if you're using charge shots, because you have to wait that extra second or half second every time that you're firing this. It also has a weird thing with its charged up shots. Sometimes if you get hit during it, it doesn't actually release the fire button. It's kind of weird, so you have to tap it again to actually fire the rivet. I don't know what causes that. I'm not sure if that's a bug or if that's just a feature at this point. This has 20 meters of effective range, which is not very far. It's about the same range as a pistol. However, that's probably about the range that you're going to be using this at, because it isn't super accurate at longer range. Its accuracy is pretty low, and it does weigh quite a bit, like all these tools where it weighs 4.5 weight. So on the heftier side, and just like a lot of these tools, it doesn't necessarily sell for the most, so you probably don't want to be hoarding rivet guns. You're probably not going to find a whole lot to hoard. They're not like cutters or arc welders where you can just find them laying around everywhere. Riveters are a little bit more rare. For the general pros of this weapon, it does do high damage per shot, at least with the charge shots. That is pretty nice. And it also is one of the early game heavy weapons, as well as it is a heavy weapon that has its own unique ammo. So if you're going with a heavy weapons build or a tool build, then this one is a decent option because it's there. For the cons, there's quite a few of them. This has a slow rate of fire. It doesn't do that much damage per shot. It's very inaccurate at longer ranges. It doesn't have very long range. The rivets also have a travel time, so you can't really count on them actually hitting targets effectively. And it seems to have one of the most spreads out of any gun, which is just not really that great. It's also pretty heavy. So there is quite a lot of cons with the auto riveter. It also doesn't have very many mods. That should be noted as well. Mods are pretty limited. And I would say that a lot of the heavy weapons in this game, this is probably one of the worst weapons in the game, and I would put it down into D tier, at least for the base rivet gun. I have never found that the base rivet gun feels good. It feels really slow, it feels really clunky. You can pick up your rivets after you kill somebody though. If you shoot them with it, there's a chance that they'll have rivets in their body, so you can pick them up. That is kind of nice. And for some reason, the Rivet Gun seems to have a really high chance of knocking weapons out of enemies' hands. I don't know why that is compared to other weapons, it's just I noticed it a lot more. But overall, I'm not a real big fan of the base Rivet Gun. I don't think it's that great. I don't think it's something that you really want to go for right away. However, there is a modded version of this, which is a lot more fun. Perhaps not massively stronger than the base Rivet Gun, but let's go over a modded version and where I'd put that. So for mods, you are very limited, where it's basically you either have the base version or you have the upgrade, and that's it. And for laser, you can just put a laser on this. For the grip and stock, you can put the shielded grip and stock on there, which is just an upgrade from the standard stock. For a magazine and battery, this is the one that really changes it and makes it a lot of fun. There is Tesla pylons. And this makes so anytime that you shoot out one of your rivets, it will hit the ground, it will spark electricity around and hit everything around it. And this will deal damage to everything in the area, and it will deal damage over time. This also includes you, and this does count as an explosive as well, which is kind of weird. I believe it also scales off of the explosive skill. And then your last upgrade is an internal, which is the hair trigger. You can put that on and it gives it a faster rate of fire, which is pretty good. Since a faster rate of fire honestly wouldn't really matter with this weapon, since you're going to need to charge it up each shot anyway, However, with the Tesla pylons, it makes it so spam firing this thing is actually pretty decent. It's not amazing by any means. It's really not going to outcompete like assault rifles or shotguns at the ranges that you're going to be using this, but it does make it more useful. And if you're trying to build up explosives, this could be a cheap way to do that. So I would heavily recommend that you use the Tesla pylons, because this does actually make it so the damage and damage per second is decent. It's still, again, not amazing. I don't even think it's better than like the cutter on most enemies, even though the cutter can be amazing on like high health pool enemies. It's just kind of okay against everything else. This one is kind of okay against everything. The electricity's nice. It also slows enemies down, deals a little bit more damage over time. And with a fully modded version of the Rivet Gun, I would move this up a tier. I'd move it from the D tier to the C tier, because it does at least have some use. It has a unique ammo, so if you're going to the heavy weapons build, you can do that. If you want to go with an explosives build, this can be a super easy way to actually level up your explosives, so you're not just chucking grenades at everything or using up all of your grenade launcher shots. This one is probably a better option just for leveling it up. I also have found that I've actually gotten a decent amount of unique rivet guns. So they've had other effects on top of them. They're usually not anything crazy, but having at least found them, they're kind of better than the other heavy weapons we've talked about. I tend to get a lot of like bashing one of these, but I think that's honestly a decent option for it, even if I don't really like the bashing skill. I do like the auto riveter a lot more than using something like the arc welder. I wouldn't use it over like the cutter, because the cutter is just pretty decent and has infinite ammo, or either the grenade launchers. So should you be using the auto riveter? I would say maybe. If you're doing a heavy weapons run, then yeah, probably, just because it's going to have the ammo and it's the only thing that uses the ammo. If you're not using that and you're just going to use whatever you can as weapon, then I'd probably say no. Then there's not really a reason for you to be using the Rivet Gun, because there are a whole lot better weapons. A lot of rifles are better than this, especially at range. And then like shotguns and pistols are going to be better weapons at very close range. So I don't really see why you'd really want to use this, unless you just want to throw the electricity on this, in which case then yeah, this is actually a really fun weapon. Tell me your thoughts on the auto riveter down in the comments below. How have you enjoyed using it, and where would you put it on the tier list? Thank you guys so very much for watching this. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye bye.